And we should be live.
Hey, long
Hi,
time no
everyone.
see.
I will intro this in the audio as well, but for those of you
Okay.
that are either watching the audio, that are watching the video on archive, we haven't done a spoilercast in a while, but so spoilercast, we're going to talk about everything in the first episode. So we are
Yes.
not going to worry about spoiling. I will not spoil stuff in the second or third episodes. We won't really talk about that. We'll talk about second episode when Hannah's done with that one, and then we'll talk
Yep.
about third one after he's done with that, and then hopefully we can kind of keep up with every episode as they come out until the first season's out, and then
Sweet.
talk about that. And
All right.
hopefully it won't be the only season, because that would
Yeah.
be nice to see more of this. But all right, let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another TVGP Spoilercast. We haven't had one in, I think,
Forever.
years. Yeah,
It's been a while.
quite a while. So what we're going to talk about this time is Life is Strange, Episode 1. If you haven't listened to a Spoilercast before, chances are pretty good you might not have. We're going to talk about everything in the first episode of Life is Strange. I have played all the way up until the end of Episode 3, and Hannah has played...
All of episode 1 and like the first hour of episode 2.
yeah, so just a little taste. So we won't really talk about too much of that stuff. We'll try and stay away from all of that stuff. But we will spoil everything in the first episode here. So
For sure.
so if you haven't played it, or you're not interested in us spoiling it, I don't know, then tune out. We won't take it personally.
Yeah. If you clicked on the wrong podcast, the TVGP proper is the one before this.
Yeah, you're looking for
Yeah.
whatever's before or after this, probably.
Yeah.
For the video here, the other JZ asked in chat, Boston's video is in Hannah's video. Is that supposed to be the thing? Yeah, unfortunately, this is how Skype does its thing. Normally, I sort of chop off that bit of bottom part, but that chop off a lot of the Hannah's head, so you get me twice for the same price. All right, so let's talk about Life is Strange. Hannah, you just recently finished this episode.
I did.
I finished it when it came out. This has been probably one of the most surprising games of 2015 so far.
It's interesting so far, having just played the first episode. There's a lot of really good characterization and a lot of really good writing happening in this, so I'm excited to see where it all leads.
Yeah, and I was kind of interested in this game when it was being they were kind of ramping up to the first episode's release, because so many outlets were coming out and saying, like, holy crap, this Life is Strange thing, it's like the Telltale games but with better writing and more important choices, and everything's really good. You guys should check this out. And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then I saw it was made by the Dontnod, the same team who made Remember Me, and I was like, well, maybe. And then I saw Square Enix bankroll this game. I was like, well, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So I sort of dove in because I really like adventure games and I really like visual novel games, of which this game kind of straddles that line between the two.
It does all the Telltale stuff, but frankly, it sort of handles it better.
Yeah, and it feels like every decision you go in will have an effect. And even throughout the first episode, you see that this decision I made before, either the game is saying, like, hey, don't forget, they're going to remember that, or you're kind of, because of the time travel, you're sort of seeing your stuff immediately become effective.
Yeah.
I think the moment where this game really pulled me in was very early in the beginning. It's this really sleepy game. You're at this high school. It's this prestigious high school, Blackwell Academy in Arcadia Bay, Oregon. You know, it's this very, like, to-do thing.
So hipster.
Yeah. And it seems very sleepy, and it seems very slice of life until Max Caulfield, the main character, falls asleep. And then you're in this nightmare hellscape.
You are in the forest from Alan Wake is where you're at.
Yeah, and, like, this giant tornado has slurped up most of this town and is, bearing down on Max. And then she wakes up, and then you're going through your class again. Like, it has sort of rewound time, and you're just sort of like, okay. Like, I had that moment where I was like, okay, that was really cool, but what is happening in this like Twin Peaks, Alan Wake, Pacific Northwest thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now there's something a little bit weird here. Is that kind of the moment where you kind of landed on it too?
Well, yeah, that was like the minute I got drawn into that, I was like, okay, I got to figure out what's happening here. And
Yeah.
and the minute I saw it was set in the Pacific Northwest, I'm like, yeah, nothing is as it seems, as it always is in the Pacific Northwest, apparently.
Yeah, like I'll never move up to Oregon because apparently there's just supernatural business happening.
Yeah, right. And I love that the school mascot is the Bigfoot. That
Yeah,
makes me so
I
happy.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that, the game really early on sets that stuff up really well where it teaches you really early on with just the first couple of choices you get to rewind where you get a question wrong in class. And it
Yeah.
kind of does the thing that I feel like everybody has thought about at one point where it's like, I'm just going to rewind time and I'm going to give them the right answer and then I'm going to be super cool. And
Yes.
Max does that. And at that point she was like, all right, I'm pretty cool. But then it kind of, there's not a lot of stuff I think the stuff that it allows you to do after that is looking at kind of the choices here in the game. It
Yeah.
kind of lets you wander around the school for a little bit and meet your classmates. I
Yep.
really liked that.
Yeah.
I mentioned in an earlier TVGP episode, I think it was 397, that I really like how this game treats wasting time. Like,
Yeah.
you're kind of talking to your classmates, you're making decisions. Like, one decision here at the top is you can talk to Daniel, the guy that seems to be the creepy guy in class, and he has to draw you, and you either say yes or no. I went with yes because he sounds like a nice guy. He's got
Yeah.
some skills.
For sure. Yeah, I went with yes as well.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, he's gonna draw a little self-portrait of me and put it on Facebook. That's fine.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It looks like my likeness. That seems fine.
Tag me in it. Let's do this.
Yeah, sure. Like, I want to get my internet fame.
Yeah.
And I really like that it gives you a chance to talk to all of your classmates, and it gives you a chance where I kind of feel like what the Persona games did really well is that it lets you live in this high school. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to go talk to your classmates about dumb stuff and like
Yeah.
what they're doing in their life and the rumors about like, the Vortex Club. Ooh, like
Ooh, crazy.
and this whatever they have going on. And I really like that this game does that because you can live in it for a while.
It is really cool. I think we sort of maybe glossed over before you get to that sort of like you can live amongst your classmates thing and see what they're all doing. You have that first walk down the hallway, and then sort of the catalyst for the rest of the game happens pretty early on.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so in the opening, you start in class, and then you have this. You seem to have this dream where you see this tornado and everything's crazy and dark, and you come back to the classroom suddenly to a point before at the same point that the game came in, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Because you get to see that replay thing happening, you see the rewind thing happening, you learn the controls, but then you finish that whole section. And you walk down the hallway, and you can sort of talk to a few of your classmates at this point. You can look at them and get sort of a basic introduction to a lot of the people that are going to be major players throughout the game.
Yeah.
And then your impetus is to go to, okay, I need to go to the washroom, splash some water on my face, and then everything goes super dark.
Yes, things go super sideways.
Real quick.
Yeah.
You end up doing the splash of the water on your face, and suddenly, somebody comes into the bathroom that's not supposed to be there, freaking out, followed by someone else. And so this is one of the main characters, one of the so far though it seems to be like the main like villain, so to speak, of this game, Nathan Prescott, who is the sort of town rich kid.
Yeah, the Richie Rich. Like
he's
his
the
family has bankrolled Blackwell, and
Yeah.
they seem to be purchasing a lot of stuff around town. And it's kind of like
Yes.
everybody knows some family where it's like, oh, they basically own the town.
He doesn't know what consequences are, is what it comes down
Right.
to. and there's something going on between him and this girl that comes. You're in the girl's washroom. He comes in. He's sort of freaking out, and then a girl comes in after him, and he pulls a gun and shoots her in the gut.
Yeah.
So it goes from like, oh, this is a quirky little high school game to school shooting.
Yeah, just stuff not real.
And so you rewind time because, duh.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you can rewind time, and you get to replay this whole thing, and you figure out a way to prevent that shooting from happening.
Yeah, in like a cool little, like, okay, I'm going to pick up this thing to open this other thing to use
Yeah.
this thing. It's kind of neat because it's not like, hey, you guys, what are you doing? It's not like I'm just going to call out. I'm going to rig up this little thing to kind of get around this issue.
Yeah, you like move a mop bucket and there's a hammer and you can break the glass on like the super old fire alarm. You hit the fire alarm and everyone's like, oh, we got to go now.
Yeah.
So you prevent it that way. And then there's there's a decision you have to make before you leave the building and get to mingle. You have to decide whether or not you tell the principal about it.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I'm a little nervous about the decision I made there. I decided that I was going to tell him.
I did too.
Okay.
I told him because I don't like Nathan.
I don't like
first
him
off, I
either.
don't like that he shot that lady, but like it also seems like there is something really going on with that dude, and
Yeah.
even though they kind of own Blackwell, I was hoping that it would be like this catalyst, this beginning where it's
Yeah.
like maybe we do need to look into that dude because he just shot someone.
Yeah,
You know.
or in this case, attempted to had a weapon on him, you know?
On campus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that. And then you get out into the world and it sort of switches over and you have all these conversations and little set pieces and little things you can do.
Yep.
And that's when it opens up. And so I think we can take it from there,
Yeah,
decision-wise.
You can kind of, there's some stuff you can talk to that Nathan guy.
Yeah.
You can sign Miss Grant's her petition to not get the cop guy, for him to not put security cameras all over the school.
Was it to not get security cameras or was it to get them?
It was...
The wording's a little weird here in this particular choice. I didn't actually make that choice. I didn't even see her with the petition.
Yeah, so she doesn't want them on school, and the cop guy does.
Yeah, so there's like a school security officer named David who we will talk about in a bit here.
Yeah, and he wants to get security cameras on school, all over the school. And she is leading the charge against having them. So she wants Max to sign the petition to say, no, we don't want security cameras. I, of course, signed it because it seems like that's something that wouldn't be welcome on this campus.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Well, I completely missed that decision, which just goes to show that this game will allow you to sort of pass by things.
Yeah. Now I'm kind of curious what happens, if anything, in future episodes because of that.
Yeah. I think it'll be the same as refusing to sign the petition. You know what I mean?
Right.
It'll have the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think you can sign it, not sign it, or I think you can kind of tell her off. Where it's like, who cares? Whatever.
Okay.
Miss
Yeah.
Grant. You can tell Alyssa to watch out because a ball is going to hit her in the head.
Poor Alyssa.
Yeah, well, Alyssa's having a rough time.
She seems a little unaware. She seems a little spaced out, and you're like, hey, heads up.
Yeah. I think that's it for the outside, and then I think you have to go inside to talk to, your buddy. What's his name?
Warren? You don't go inside to talk to Warren. You have to go get his flash drive because he loaned you a flash drive with a bunch of movies on it.
Right.
Which sounds exactly like something I would have done in high school.
Probably, yeah.
It's like, here, watch all of these.
Yeah, so you have to go get
Don't ask where I got them.
his flash drive. I actually missed a decision here in the interior where there's one of your fellow classmates, Kate. Sounds like she's getting bullied. Sounds like there's more stuff about that in episode 2.
Yeah, it sort of comes to a crest, but from what you can tell, for the background you get on Kate is that she's very religious. She comes from a very religious family. She's she's putting up like abstinence posters all over school, not like preachy, like, hey, you should be, but like, hey, we have meetings. If you want to be part of this, be part of this. That's cool. It's like
Yeah.
live your life, do what you're gonna do. And I know exactly what choice you're talking about, and I'm glad I was able to catch this.
Yeah, and it's someone had scribbled in her continuing bullying. Someone had scribbled "Will bang for Jesus" on her little
Yeah,
whiteboard outside. Did not know you could actually erase that.
yeah. So you can go
So
up and erase that, and I did that because I was like, that's not
yeah,
cool.
that come
Like,
on, man, that's mean.
yep.
There's some other inconsequential stuff.
There's actually some really interesting stuff that happens here mechanically, I think. So
Hmm.
you can go talk to, do you remember Dana, the cheerleader?
Yes.
So you can go talk to Dana and you can sort of explore her space, or you cannot.
Hmm.
And I think the more compelling choice here is to not explore and be like the game sort of calls you out for being snoopy and nosy in certain
Yeah.
contexts, which I really like because no game does that.
Yeah, it's not just going to be like, hey man, just loot whatever you want. At some point, characters
Yeah,
are going to be like, what are you doing? Like, get out of my
yeah.
room.
Why are you going through my trash? Which is literally what you can do in this room, and like you find out she's pregnant.
Yeah. Well, and it's
You
actually
know?
interesting because
In high school, in this dorm, and it's kind of like, oh, they're getting into some deep subjects here.
I actually stayed with that decision and I rewound time and brought it up to her
Yeah,
and helped talk to her about it
same
and was
here.
sort of like, hey man, it's okay. Everything's cool. Like,
Yeah, if you need anything, let me know.
yeah. Which is kind of neat. It's kind of another neat part about this time
Yeah,
rewinding is you can snoop and you can find all this stuff and then you can get in trouble and then you can rewind time and you can be talk to him and be like, hey man, I heard this rumor that you're like totally preggers. Like, what's the deal?
yeah,
And then you can have this conversation without it being like, why do you have like elbow deep in my trash? What is wrong with you?
yeah, yeah. Which
Yeah.
is how I went about it because I was like, I feel wrong picking this up, but it seems like the game wants me to. And
Yeah.
like the minute you pick it up, she's like, "What are you doing?"
Well, it's also neat because up until that point, like you go to Max's room and you're looking at all of her stuff. Like you're going into her laptop and checking emails and like you're looking at your phone and you're looking at
Yeah.
all your texts. By the way, we forgot to talk about the main menu stuff where
Oh yeah,
it
that's
has
really good.
this really cool diary stuff where Max is
Yes.
writing down all of her stuff, drawing stuff in the borders. Uh,
Pictures and stuff in there as well.
yeah, you get to see all the pictures you've taken. You get to see all the texts from her family and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
that's another big piece of the game is taking photos. There's photo opportunities throughout the game because you're at Blackwell because you want to study under this really famous photographer who teaches there
Yeah,
because you want to be a photographer.
who seems
Uh,
like a really cool dude.
he seems like good people. Seems like a lot of the guys I had for teachers at art school, just sort of chill, very strong opinions, but very backed up. And if you have new information for them, they'll actually consider it. That
Yeah.
sort of thing. Very open minded.
Well, it was interesting actually to see the interaction between Max and some of her classmates in that first scene where
Yeah,
Max kind of can't win against some girls that are bullying her too. And saying
yeah,
like, "Oh, the only pictures you take are selfies." Like, "Oh, look at this vintage camera." Ugh. Like,
yeah. She walks around with basically a Polaroid camera.
yeah. And seems to be have a niche for taking selfies for
Yeah,
some of the stuff that she's been submitting, sort of leading up to. I think they're going to San Francisco. Like whoever wins this like picture
yes.
competition gets to go with the teacher to San Francisco to kind of
Have like
have
a gallery showing and
yeah, like have a
stuff.
gallery showing. So, there's
It's a
this
big deal for a high school student, especially.
yeah. And I kind of like that they present that because it gives this reason almost that Max is gathering stuff in her daily life to figure out which picture she wants to submit as her final photo for this picture competition. So
Yeah,
it's kind of and they get your trophies, which is super cool.
yeah.
I'm trying to think if I feel like there's so much that happens in each one of these episodes. They're only like 3 or 4 hours, but they're
They're,
dense.
yeah, that's the word I was going to use.
Yeah.
And there's so much meat on the bone per episode. And like, there's things I completely missed, like the Miss Grant petition. There was another couple of something with a bird that happens that I completely missed.
Yeah, I think I did that one.
Yeah, but you can do things as detailed as like, oh, water your plant.
Yeah, and like I didn't even know that you could do because in the first episode I wasn't trained yet to kind of look at everything
Yeah,
in the game.
yeah. It sort of teaches you to pay attention and make sure you're hitting all these points.
Yeah.
But man, there's a lot happening in that school. There's a lot of drama. And what decision did we leave off with?
Left off with kind of, oh, you get to break into Victoria's room and you can kind of mess
Right.
around with the pictures on the wall.
Yeah. I don't think we talked about Victoria.
Yeah, she's kind of the lead bully against both Kate and Max. Seems
Yeah.
like a little bit less of Max because Kate is an easier target.
Max seems like collateral damage of just her general personality.
And that she seems to be making friends with Kate because Max is going to be the person that's going to be like, hey man, like, let's be cool to Kate. Like, she's not doing anything wrong. She's just religious. And
Yeah.
Victoria's all, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't remember if this is the point where you spill paint on Victoria
That's
or not.
before you get in the door. You have to do that to get in the dorms.
Yeah, and
So,
that was kind of a fun little like rewinding time because somebody's gonna go through this process. They're gonna
yeah.
the groundskeeper who seems a little bit weird but like squirrels.
Yeah.
He's gonna
This
go
reminds me of the janitor from Scrubs.
yeah, like he's a little bit off.
Yeah.
He's gonna go through this whole process of like taking this paint and climbing this ladder, and he's gonna start painting the window, and
Yeah.
you have to figure out by rewinding time kind of back far enough. How do you get back far enough to do something to get Victoria away from the front of the school so you can get into your dorm to
Yeah,
get this
because
flash drive?
her and her friends are just kind of being jerks and like, no, we're going to sit on the stoop and you got to find your own way in.
Yeah. But it was kind of, I think, so eventually you splash paint on Victoria and ruin
Yeah.
her sweater or whatever.
Her, giant high fashion outfit.
Yeah. And I think this was one of the moments that won me over a little bit more with this game where
Yeah.
Victoria is clearly a villain in Max's story.
Yeah.
But when you get Victoria by herself, she was actually kind of okay to you.
Yeah.
Like she actually started acting like a normal human. And I really respect this game for continuing to do that because villains aren't really great when they're always terrible.
Yes.
Villains are really great when they're also humans and they're also having a hard time. Like Victoria's clearly having a hard time with something,
Yeah.
and she's lashing out and she's being a bully because of this thing. And probably societal pressures and the Vortex Club and all that stuff. So
Yeah. She's part of the cool clique, so
Yeah.
she's got to keep up appearances.
yeah, and the Vortex Club is sort of bandied about this entire episode where it's the cool kid club. Like they have all these cool parties and they had a cool party recently where something happened,
Yeah. That they get more into in episode 2.
Yeah, which we'll definitely talk about in episode 2. But
Yeah.
there seems to be, it definitely does seem to be the cool kid club.
Yeah.
So you get in there, you get the flash drive, you're sort of inspecting Victoria's room. Max makes a comment about an HD TV in Victoria's room and how awesome Spirits Within would look on the TV.
It's like, square.
Which I thought was like, you guys.
Good try,
crazy.
guys.
Nobody
I'm
likes
not
it.
buying the Blu-ray. Sorry.
Yeah, not really into that. And then you leave the dorm room, and I think you immediately head over to go see Warren with the flash drive.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, sorry, this cat is like eating this carpet down here.
That'll happen.
Stop doing that. Thank you. As a consequence, you run into Chloe,
Yeah.
who is your childhood friend.
Yeah.
Who is the blue-haired lady that got killed in another timeline in the bathroom.
So let's step through because that's a major plot point. I think we need to step through really quick.
Yeah,
So
and
you
it's
go.
kind of complicated here.
It is. So you go to meet Warren, and Warren is clearly like interested in Max. Like Warren
Yeah.
likes Max,
And
in
like the high school way, where it's like, I really like you, but I don't know how to say that I do.
Like I like that we're friends, but I don't know if I want to be more. I want to be more than that, but I don't know how to do that or what that will mean.
Yeah, so I'm gonna lend you movies.
I'm gonna lend you movies, and we're gonna talk. And
Yeah,
so you give him back his flash drive, and Nathan Prescott comes out of nowhere, being sort of threatening and just generally like, "Hey, I know you were in the bathroom and
yeah.
you saw.
Did you
what
say
happened."
anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he sort of like gets up in your face, and Warren sort of stands up for you.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey
And
man, what's going on here?"
he takes a heck of a punch for you, which you got to give him credit for
It
that.
really does. He
Yeah,
gets rocked pretty hard.
yeah, that was a haymaker, and it hit him right in the jaw.
Yeah.
And at this point, Chloe pulls up in her truck, which looks like the truck out of Sanford and Son.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's
and
a little worse for wear.
and like almost hits Nathan. I don't know if she actually hits Nathan. It's been a couple days since I played,
Yeah, I
but
don't remember. If not, it's really close.
like Nathan is like clearly like in a rage because he's not like he's just attacking.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not even.
unhinged.
Yeah, he really is, and like there's clearly some issues with this dude. But you hop in the car and he like closes the door because he's lunging for you, not because he
Yeah.
wants to close the door.
Yeah, he's like looking to
So
get at Max.
yeah, it's like clear desperation at this point. And an important thing to mention here is that while Chloe is returning to Arcadia Falls, which was her hometown before or not Chloe, I'm sorry, Max is returning to Arcadia Falls, which was her hometown until she was about 14, and then she moved to Seattle.
Yeah, her and her family seemingly very suddenly just sort of picked up and left.
Yeah, and now she's coming back because of Blackwell and because of this teacher and because she wants to be a photographer. But she did not keep in contact with Chloe in that time.
Yeah, and Chloe's
things,
been in Arcadia Bay the whole time, just kind of unhappy.
Did I say Arcadia Falls?
Maybe.
I think I'm
remember.
thinking too much. Too
Too
much
many
Alan
Twin
Wake.
Peaks.
Yeah. But so they haven't kept in contact, and honestly, in this day and age, there's no reason for that. It's just sort of, there's a distance that happens. I think
Yeah.
everyone's had a friend that this happens with.
It feels very high school, where it's like,
It
I
does.
moved away and we just didn't keep tabs, but how are you?
Yeah, yeah, and and some things happened around the time that Max moved to Chloe that were really hard for her. Like her dad passed away, and it was really, really rough on her. And they're coming back together, and it's sort of like things haven't changed, but everything's changed. Like they're
Yeah.
still the same people, but they're not.
Yeah, Chloe's clearly very unhappy. She's
Yeah.
struggling with a lot of stuff. She's clearly expressing herself. She's got blue hair. She's got a lot of tattoos. Like she's dressed very specifically, and she mentions pretty early on that she had some issues with the missing student, whose name I'm trying to remember here.
Rachel Amber.
Rachel Amber, who
So this is a whole thing we miss all around the school. If you look at the poster boards, and like the school is just plastered with missing persons posters for Rachel Amber.
yeah. And she just up and suddenly disappeared.
Yeah,
And, she had always told Chloe, oh, we'll go to LA, I think, together.
yeah,
But then she just vanished. And
yeah. No
everybody
trace,
seems
no
to think
anything.
she got murdered. But Chloe is still stubbornly holding out hope that Rachel will
she's-
come back someday.
She's the one putting up the posters and things.
Yeah.
So there's this connection between, Rachel is the person that Chloe latched onto once Max left.
Right.
And it seems to have been a very sort of, deep and caring relationship. They were very close, and she suddenly disappeared, and she's just torn to pieces because it's like the third time this is happening to her.
Yeah, and it seems like
know-
that was kind of the last straw for Chloe's overall mental health because it
Yeah.
was, these people and then her dad died and then Amber leaves and it's just kind of, she's had it.
Yeah, she's sort of done caring, which
Yeah.
I kind of get.
Yeah.
But it's a very humanizing story, and it's it's very interesting. But you get back and you go to Chloe's house, and it's sort of like a time capsule for Max coming back after all these years, and seeing how a lot of things haven't changed, and this like same furniture, the house still smells the same, which I like that little detail.
Yeah. Yeah, but kind of everything has changed because the house is half painted on the front.
Yeah.
It's very clearly hasn't been taken care of.
Yeah.
Everything is a little dirty. Everything's
Yeah.
really dingy and dark,
Just cluttered, not dirty, just cluttered and kind
Yeah.
of messy.
Yeah, like a lot of the window shades aren't open. It's very clearly like nobody has really loved that house happily for a little bit of time.
Since the father has passed.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to remember what you do in the house though, because it's
So
been a little bit of time.
in the house, you go through. I just played this, so it's all really fresh.
Oh,
If you
good.
ever to sort of take over from here. So You go into the house, and your first goal is to find some music to put on, but Chloe's sort of out of it and is sort of not paying attention. She's literally like just getting high on her bed.
Yeah.
So she just like leaves it up to you, which leaves you. This is an area where you're sort of free to explore
Hmm.
without a whole lot of consequence and sort of discover what she's been up to and like get some more backstory on her, which is how you find out about her dad and things like that.
Yeah.
You do eventually you find a box under her bed that you open it up. There's a CD in there. And underneath the CD is a picture of Chloe and Rachel Amber, and so that's how that connection happens. And you guys talk about it. You put on some music. There's a photo opportunity in there at some point. You just sort of take a picture of Chloe like jumping on the bed, and smoking pot, and like just having a good time, just being a teenager.
Yeah.
It's a really I love the interesting use of like those photo opportunities. But then another thing you do in the midst of all this is your camera gets broken when Nathan Prescott attacks.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, so your camera's in pieces. You find some. You have to go down to the garage and find some precision screwdrivers. In the garage, you can discover a number of things. First off, you
Yeah.
discover that Chloe's stepdad is crazy, and that he is also the security guard at the school.
Yeah, he's that really crazy security guard that you also see bullying Kate at some point.
Yeah,
So clearly not a fan of him already.
yeah, he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
He reminds me. Have you watched Orange Is the New Black?
No.
Okay, he reminds me of a character on there
Okay.
who is affectionately named Pornstash because he's
Right.
got one.
Naturally.
Practically the same character.
Wow.
Well, not practically, in some ways.
The
like
same
just
archetype.
the same archetype, just sort of the jerk with power.
Right. The ex-military kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if he's
frustrated.
ex-military. He's just sort of the whole thing in Orange is the New Black. They're just in a poor area, and like
Right.
it's one of the few jobs he can get, and he can't get on the police force and stuff like that. So,
Right.
but it's just like he has power and he abuses it.
Yeah.
So you find out he's keeping a file on Kate.
Yeah.
And like
Like pretty detailed.
yeah, for whatever reason, I think we discover that in episode 2, but I mean, I'm not even sure if that's the reason. You discover that he has wired the entire house with cameras.
Yep.
And they're just can't. And it's not like, oh, I wired the outside of the house because we live in a rough neighborhood. It's like, no, I've wired like the kitchen in my kid's bedroom
Yeah,
because I
like
don't trust
every
them.
room. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
very I remember you figured that out in episode 1 and it's
Yeah,
it's
you
pretty crazy.
you see his plan for the security cameras at Blackwell, which is that's
Right.
when I found out about it. I didn't realize that he wanted to do that until then. And you can also discover that there is a gun missing from his gun cabinet.
Right.
And then once you find the precision screwdrivers, there's a cool little puzzle that you do along with that, with the time rewinding and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you bring them back. You can't fix the camera. And then there's a whole lot of discussion between yourself and Chloe, and it ends with sort of this really nice reconciliation moment between the two,
Yeah.
where she gives you her dad's old like Instamatic camera,
Yeah.
and it's pretty much like a nicer version of what you had, and it's sort of like a peace offering,
Right. Well, and it also really suits Max.
It does, yeah, and it makes sense, and that's it's kind of one of those sweet moments where it's like even as like you had a moment like that at some point in
Yeah,
your life.
and it feels very human, like
Yes.
a lot of this game, where it just feels like
I think that's a really good way to describe it.
we're gonna make up here a little bit, and maybe I'm still mad at you, but we're still friends. So
Yeah, we're still cool. It's we're just gonna take some time to do everything else.
yeah, here's this incredibly important thing from my past and my all too soon past dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then things go sideways, as they so often do when there's nice moments. I've been conditioned thanks to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So Chloe's stepdad comes in and just goes off. It's just being crazy. You have to like do a little time puzzle. You hide in the closet.
Yeah.
And
Which I didn't do, by the way.
You didn't hide?
No, I actually didn't, because this was one of those times where like they put pressure on you, and I forget you can rewind time. So
Yeah.
like when I screwed up, I just took it. And like
Oh, man.
he's yelling at me, and he's yelling at Chloe, and Chloe eventually what happens if you don't hide? Chloe's like, well, it's Max's pot.
Oh, really?
And then like as Max, you get the choice of blame Chloe or take the blame myself. And my solution was, I'll take the blame myself.
Okay.
So I totally tell him, like, yeah, that's my pot. Woo, pot.
I
Yay.
actually went through I went through both scenarios there, so I did successfully hide.
Mhm.
And the first time I just stayed back. Did you see what happens if you do that?
No.
He hits her.
Oh, jeez.
He like backhands her.
Wow.
And is like, this has got to stop. You're out of control. Blah blah blah. I rewound and like, if you come out, it neutralizes that situation, but it puts a lot of heat on you,
Yeah.
and it could potentially like, you can take the blame for the pot. Like that could put some pressure on your scholarship at your school and things like that. So I made the decision. I rewound and I stuck with one where she's the one that told me to hide. I'm going to listen to her.
Right.
You
You're
know,
gonna make the hard choice.
I'm going to make the hard choice here, and there was no good choice in that situation.
No, because I mean, when I took the pot, I'm now known to David as the pot smoker.
Yeah,
Like I'm the bad kid, and to him. I'm
the
the
bad
bad
influence.
influence on
Yeah.
Chloe's life now.
which
So,
he is, but he doesn't know
right.
that.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing is, if you so you took the blame for that.
I did.
Did she pull something out from under her bed?
Nope.
Okay, so if you hide and then you come out and you like stand up for her,
Hmm.
she took his gun.
Yes, you find that out. I found that out later.
Okay, so you find it out there
Oh,
that
interesting.
she took his gun, and I really like the joke there. She mentioned earlier, oh, I'm for gun control. Why would I take your gun? And she tells Max, she's like, yeah, I'm for gun control. I control the gun. I was like,
I'm trying to remember because
I like that.
I know that comes up later. I don't remember if that scene still happened because I played it when it came out, so it's been like
Yeah.
12 weeks ago. Each episode comes out every 6 weeks, so it's been like 12, 15 weeks by now.
Yeah.
It might have happened too, but
Yeah, so you can actually, so that it sounds like there's three paths there, which is awesome.
yeah, there might be.
That's pretty cool. I always forget that not acting is, in a sense, acting in games like this.
Right, yeah, and it
Which
gets you
to
in as much trouble as anything else.
Well, and like you just think about the development of something like this. You're like, whoa, all the stuff you have to take
You
into
need to see the
consideration.
flowchart.
Yeah, I don't want to. It's probably in 3D and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's like
So
the Fez map.
that is sort of I see that as sort of the climax of this episode, because everything's sort of downhill from that.
Yeah, if I remember, you and Chloe, after David has really harassed you a bit, you kind of storm out and you say, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the lighthouse because
Yeah,
we wanted to go to the lighthouse. And then that's the point where Max decides to tell Chloe that she can control time
yes,
and that something horrible is going to happen to town.
yeah. Because when you get to the lighthouse, you sort of walk around and you get up to the point in the lighthouse, and you recognize all this from the beginning of the game. And it's just very peaceful. It's serene. You actually have a really cool photo opportunity of Chloe set against a sunset.
Yeah,
that looks
sitting on a
really
bench.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. I love the photography in this game is really good. Like
Yeah.
they did their homework. They looked at it and they framed everything really nice.
Yeah.
And so, you're talking to Chloe and sort of catching up and telling her about all this crazy stuff that's happened, and she figures out and in her room, she figures out that you were in the bathroom and you saved her and that you helped her.
Right, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's this whole tie-in there, and that's what drives her to give you the camera.
Right.
Because she realizes that you were,
you
looking
saved
out for
her
her.
life.
Yeah, well, she doesn't. I don't know if she knows she saved her life. Like,
Yeah.
it could have been an empty gun for all she knew. But
Right.
it's a lot of meaningful moments in this game that you see just straight
Yeah.
out. But at the end there, when you're talking in the lighthouse and stuff, and just sort of going all over the crazy stuff that's happened, you suddenly, out of nowhere and outside of your control, flash away from that moment. You sort of black out, and you are back in the forest, back in the tornado. There's a couple of spots where you're going and like a tree falls and you have to rewind so that you can get past it.
Yeah, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I really like. I could have used that in Alan Wake. Would have made that game a whole lot shorter.
Oh, that guy's got a chainsaw. Rewind time.
Yeah, right. And And then, you do this a couple times and you eventually get up to where the tornado is and you pick up a newspaper and you see the date on it. And the date is that Friday, that coming Friday.
Yep.
And it has a story about this storm that's coming.
Yeah.
And that's she suddenly, once you see this big panoramic shot of the lighthouse crumbling and the tornado just heading towards the town, she flashes back into the moment she's in with Chloe, and she just blurts out to Chloe, like, I can control time. I just went to Friday. There's a huge tornado coming. We need to do something.
Yeah, we gotta do something.
And then in 79-degree weather, it starts snowing.
Right. I forgot about the snow. Yeah.
And that's where the game, that's where the episode 1 closes. It's a sunset. It's really warm out in the Pacific Northwest. It's an unseasonably warm fall. It's early October, and suddenly it starts snowing, and you get this great panorama of them at the lighthouse and the snow falling, and then they go across campus and they do this really nice montage of just showing that different angles. It was really well done.
Yeah, and it was kind of nice because it sort of bookended the whole episode, and then when the credits happened, it was sort of like, okay, yeah, that was pretty good.
It's a weird, ominous note to leave the game on, and actually, at that point, I literally went online and I went, okay, I'm going to pay the $16 and get the rest.
Yeah,
of the
you have my season pass.
You absolutely do.
Yeah, and then what's nice is they took a note from Telltale's book, and they put a little teaser for the next episode in the previous episode, which, if you're playing episode by episode, is just a knife to the gut, because you're like, that's all the cool stuff I want to see. Yeah. Oh, I have so many questions.
Well, and then they also take another note out of Telltale's book, and I really like the way they handled this. They show you all the choices you could potentially make, and there's like 30 of them, and even the minor ones.
Because they show like the first 2 pages is like the big ones. Yeah, where it's like, did you take the blame? Did you, what did you do for?
Did you talk to the principal? Did you? Yeah. What did you do?
And then like the next 2 pages is all the really tiny ones. It's like, did you let the bird out? Did you feed your plant?
Yeah, did you water your plant? Did you pick up the pregnancy test in Dana's room or whatever?
Right.
So it was really nice to see all those statistics, but the best thing is you can see worldwide statistics and then just between yourself and your friends.
Yep, which I like a lot, because not a lot of people have been playing it as it's been going, but I've been going back to previous ones and being like, oh, well, I made the decision that first, no one in the world made, and 2, certainly nobody on my friends list made. Yeah. And I like that a lot. It doesn't show like who made the decisions as well, but it shows percentages. Yeah. So yeah, I'm super glad you started playing Life is Strange. We've been talking about it for a while. 5. Yeah, and I mean, you still have 2 more episodes that are already out, and Dontnod has been really great. Every 6 weeks, a brand new episode comes out, and like clockwork. And I'm so happy more people are playing it. I'm so happy you're playing it, and we're going to continue to do this Spoilercast stuff because it's so interesting to be on top of it. Yeah. And it's just a surprisingly outstanding game for something that seems as normal as high school.
Yeah, and it's one of those games where I think it's going to be shown as an example of how we're progressing with storytelling and characterization, and this is so the polar opposite of the beefy Space Marine game.
Yeah, it's 2 high school girls just living their life with time travel.
It's so compelling.
Yeah, it's the same thing I've said about Persona 3 and 4. It's like, it's hard to explain how compelling like managing your schedule for high school is. Like, now I got to go to swim class, stuff like that, but it's interesting to see just a normal day, plus time travel, of course, but kind of normal stuff.
For sure.
So, yeah, and so that's episode 1. Hannah and I will be back for episode 2, probably once he is back from a vacation that is upcoming. So we'll probably talk about it around the E3 timeframe, as long as everybody is kind of up to the same point, and I will do a better job of sort of refreshing episode 2. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Hannah, for joining me for spoiling some stuff.
No problem.
And we'll be back in a couple weeks with episode 2.
Sounds good.
Bye. And
Peace.
this is the end of the video, so we're just
Yeah.
gonna. Thanks for watching, everyone.